Let's talk now about the second weekend at the box office for Thunderbolts. First, it's been generally well received across movie review aggregator sites. It's doing extremely well. All audience scores on Rotten Tomatoes stand at 93% from more than 10,000 plus ratings. IMDb stands at 7.6 out of 10. Metacritic holds a 7.4 out of 10. So very respectable, commendable ratings there. And I very much enjoyed the film. If you've seen my review video, I think it's a good movie. I actually watched it twice. I enjoyed it more the second time. Over at Box Office Mojo, we can see that the film has now grossed $272 million worldwide. That's $128 million domestically and $143 million internationally. The first weekend brought in $74.3 million in the US. The second weekend has seen only a 55.5% decrease. That's not that much in the context of most MCU movies, actually. It's generally considered a good decline for most big films. The issue that Thunderbolts has is that its opening weekend wasn't strong enough. It needed to be closer to $100 million, which was going to be a big ask because even Captain America Brave New World only brought in $88 million on its first weekend, and the Captain America brand would be a little bit stronger. So if that film didn't make it, Thunderbolts was always going to struggle. So, you know, when you think about that, I think it was always going to be a bit of a tall order for Thunderbolts to do well. But the decline in the third weekend should be a little lower than 55.5%. So the second weekend for Thunderbolts brought in $33 million domestically. It remains number one at the box office at the moment. Captain America Brave New World declined in its second weekend by 68.4%. Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania declined 71% in its second weekend. The Marvels, with its appalling opening weekend of $46 million, declined 71.5% domestically in its second weekend. Let's get some context. This article is from ScreenRant.com. Box office, Sunday update. Thunderbolts tops second weekend with one of the best drops for an MCU movie. Thunderbolts has turned out an astounding second weekend at the domestic box office. The new movie, which is the 36th feature-length installment in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, follows the formation of a team of anti-heroes from previous installments in the superhero franchise, including Ant-Man and the Wasp's Ghost, Hannah John Kamen, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier's US Agent, Wyatt Russell, and Black Widow's Red Guardian, David Harbour, and Yelena Belova, Florence Pugh. The Thunderbolts release kicked off somewhat inauspiciously, with a $74.3 million debut that landed below the previous installment, Captain America Brave New World, $88.8 million. Per Variety, as of Sunday morning, Thunderbolts is projected to close out its sophomore weekend with a 3-day total of $33.1 million at the domestic box office, which would give it a week-on-week drop of 55%. This is more than enough for it to take number one for the second weekend in a row because it doesn't face any major competition from new wide releases. Additionally, this is set to be one of the smallest drops in the history of the MCU. Its previous projections saw it ending up with the 8th best week 2 drop of the entire franchise, beating out the billion-dollar hit Deadpool and Wolverine, which dropped 54.2%. But it is now projected to settle just outside of the franchise top 10. Meanwhile, the Ryan Coogler horror movie Sinners has continued to show even slimmer drops, falling just 31% and retaining its place at number 2 on the chart. It's a good result for Thunderbolts overall. Positive word of mouth certainly helped this film, I think, and the rebrand probably didn't hurt it either. It was a bit of fun. The issue is, and as I said before, despite the second weekend drop-off being in line with other quite successful MCU movies, the first weekend didn't pull in what it really needed to. And that is, as we've discussed, largely because prior to Thunderbolts, the MCU brand has been weakened by a succession of poor and mid MCU movies and TV shows in the franchise. If the film has a really good hold at the box office for the coming weeks, who knows? Maybe it will be a moderate financial success. I think Disney Marvel will take that as a win. At the bare minimum, people are speaking positively about a new MCU movie. That by itself is a win for the brand. And I think this is positive news for Fantastic Four, First Steps, because it means that the franchise now goes into that movie with some momentum and goodwill, thanks to the critical success of Thunderbolts, even if it isn't a financial success as it stands. It hasn't repaired the franchise by itself. For something like that to happen, the MCU needs repeated success over and over. It needs consistency. Now, if Fantastic Four First Steps turns out to be awesome, the positive momentum will carry forward to Avengers Doomsday. And if that turns out to be a big hit, then it's just going to get bigger and bigger. The momentum will build further and further for Secret Wars. I think unlike Doctor Who or something like Star Wars, the MCU is fixable with the right creative direction, and then maybe it can be at last retired or hard rebooted properly as it should have been after Endgame. As for Thunderbolts, if this film had been released at the beginning of Phase 4 or at the end of Phase 4, beginning of Phase 5, I think it would have pulled in over $100 million first weekend, similar to Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, given the fan interest and strength of the MCU brand back then, before a lot of the damage was done. But at best, I think Disney Marvel can only really hope that this film recoups most of its costs, its production budget. Maybe it can pull back its marketing costs as well, who knows. But it is a challenge, because after all, studios only receive about, what, 1/3 of the international box office take and half the domestic take. So you have to consider that when you're looking at box office numbers. I think a not so great first weekend has probably hurt Thunderbolt's chances of being the financial success that they needed it to. But still, lots of good films underperform at the box office. It should never stop you from enjoying the movie. The financial challenges of a film are the studio's concern, not ours. But anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it there for now. Let me know your thoughts on Thunderbolts. If you've seen the film, what do you think about it? I have to say, most feedback I've seen in reviews and comment sections and on social media has been positive for the film. There are a lot of people who are jumping on the Bash Marvel bandwagon, and I don't want to get into that because to me, when I go and see a film, it's a blank slate. I don't care about what happened before. I do acknowledge where the brand has gone very regrettably, and the creative decline that it suffered. But I do judge each movie on its own individual merits, which I think is what reviewers should be doing every time they go to the cinema and they sit down and watch a movie. So I think that's the only way that you can be truly impartial as a reviewer. And I think that's the best way to do it, because if you're going to bring baggage with you and preconceived notions when you sit down and watch a film, it is potentially going to impact upon your ability to just enjoy what otherwise could be a good film. Anyway, guys, I'll wrap it up there. Thank you very much for watching. Please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video out there. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.